Today's video, we have a special treat. We're going to be flying over Kyrgyzstan in this lovely Beechcraft 18. I know I said TPM 930 earlier, but I could not resist, unfortunately. So this is going to be the thing that we're going to end up going with for tonight. Sorry about that. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be flying over, like I said, Kyrgyzstan. We have these lovely mountains. It's nice and early in the morning. And we're basically going to be not trying to cross over the top of the mountains. We're going to basically be trying to kind of go through the valleys and things like that to kind of make our way over to the largest lake in Kyrgyzstan, which is way over there in the east. And like I said, it should be a pretty relaxing flight. Total flight time today, I think, is something like 36, 37 minutes. But again, it's all going to depend on how much sightseeing we decide to do along the way. So it should be a pretty good night. So without further ado, let's get this thing rolling. So we already got this thing fired up already. Like I said, that's redundant, but well, everything's pretty good. This is a nice mix between old and new. This is definitely an older airframe with a bunch of more modern avionics in it. One thing we have to do before we get going too far today is because this is a regular engine, and by regular I mean reciprocating engine, we actually have to take a minute to set our air fuel mixture first before we do anything today. Let's see, somebody's asking us what airport we're at. We're at Sosnovka Airport, which is UASV. UASV. There we go. Sweet. So let's go ahead and run the engine up. We're actually going to have to do a full power run-up in order to make this work. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the controls back. Go ahead and give it full throttle. And notice the engine. Look at how little manifold pressure I'm making right now. There's the turbos. All right, let's go ahead and get our mixture set correctly here. We're getting decent power here, but notice I'm not even getting full RPM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start leaning, and you can see my exhaust gas temperature going crazy. You can hear my RPM spinning up a little higher. We're looking for peak. Looks like peak is going to be right... close. Wait for it. Just a little more. Just a little more. Wow. You really need to lean your mixture at this altitude. Here we go. Getting close. And here comes peak. Come on. Wow. And that should do it right. Whoop, too far. Sweet. All right, let's get this boat rolling. Boats don't roll. Oh, well. That was crazy. Like I said, another reason why I'm not taking the turboprop today is we don't have a lot of room to take off. And it's one of those things where mistakes were made when selecting the correct airport here. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to kind of work with it. We'll probably chew up a little bit of the grass as we're going into the air today. But again, it's nothing I'm too worried about. We are built for this, so I'm not... Like I said, I'm a big beefy tail dragger. Ain't going to have any problems here. Look how rumbly this thing is. It just sounds so angry. I love it. So we're going to take off. We're going to head right for those mountains. No GPS on this sucker, unfortunately. I got a map, though. Don't worry. We won't get as lost. Go ahead and kick that sucker over. Man, I would kill to fly one of these suckers in the real world. This thing is just so. And full stop. I feel sorry for everybody in the TBM because when you go to take off today, you're going to find you're going to run out of runway. Oh well, let's see here. Make sure everything is ready. Cow flaps in the correct position. Oil coolers are in the correct position. Everything is good to go. Controls free and clear. It's not like I got a nice autopilot on this thing. I do have an autopilot. It's just not the world's greatest autopilot. Flaps are good. Trim looks good. All right, let's get to it. Love the radials. Let's go. Now, what's interesting about this thing is when the rudder suddenly becomes effective, it goes boing and jerks you over to the side. You'll know it the moment it happens. There it is. That's the test of the audience's patience. Those landing gear don't sound very happy with me. All right, on our way. Already been passed. That would not surprise me. I'm going to start getting on our way right away, though. Go ahead and start by backing our power up to something a little bit safer here. Looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and pull back the RPM just a little bit. We don't have to pull it back that far. As long as we're in the green, theoretically, it's legal. There we go, right there. We're going to have to fix with the mixture in a minute, but I'm not too worried about it yet. Those folks who opted for the TBM, you've got your work... actually, you've got a really easy time. I got my work cut out for me, but that's okay. Yeah, well, it's definitely an interesting plane. I was actually going to take... I hate to say this. I was going to take the Beechcraft... the Boeing 247 on this flight. And I tried it out a little bit, and it was just work. And I mean, I don't mind some work with airplanes, but this is definitely, like I say, this is a nice balance between work and not too much work. We could have done the DC-6 also. That would have been a blast. And I was reading some rumors about getting a Beechcraft 60, which is one of my favorite general aviation planes ever invented. For those of you who've never seen a Beechcraft 60, you're missing out. They actually, for those of you who go to look it up in a minute, they made a turboprop conversion for it. So they basically gave something that didn't need 1,100 horsepower, 1,100 horsepower. And it doesn't even have a VNO. It has a VNE. Basically, it's the top of the red arc is the top of the green arc. It's just so cool how that plane is just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm gonna start making my way over in that direction. But what I would like to do is I like to tweak my time of day just a teeny tiny bit there, so I can get a little bit of kind of a sucking in some of the terrain here. There we go. Kind of getting it nice and lined up. There's a little kind of river valley right off my 12 o'clock there. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself up just high enough so that I can basically clear a lot of that stuff. And then I'm going to come to the right. We're going to follow this mountain pass. There's a really, really tall mountain kind of in the way that we got to get over, but we'll kind of just sort of skip. For those of you who are looking for a little bit more ridiculousness, feel free to do something like skim along the ground. But as long as you have enough horsepower, it won't matter. I'm a little nervous with this thing because we're going to run out of power and run out of room very quickly with it. So like I said, nothing too bad. Nothing too bad. And bop that button. You can see we're just slightly to the north of where we need to be. But like I said, it's not going to matter because we do need to... I'd rather not have to power across the Himalayas, which is funny because the Himalayas are actually that way. This is a totally different mountain range. It's just to the north of all of that, which is pretty nice. Oh, no, Rick. I hate to hear that. I don't know if it's a crash or what it is. Now, by the way, interesting pro tip. If you have the internet connection to support it, disabling your local cache does seem to improve frame rates. I don't know why it does, but it's something that I changed. I have a very fast computer, but that made it just a touch faster, which I was really, really happy with. All right, 11,000 feet should be a pretty good altitude to go ahead and level off at here. Like I said, we'll go ahead and kind of switch to other modes in just a minute. And then I'll tell you what little things I found about other than how to pronounce the name of the country. I had to actually look it up. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a fixed heading here. This is one very old school autopilot. It's actually less old school than the autopilot in the airplane that I typically fly in. The airplane that I typically fly in has a little... It's the silliest thing you've ever seen. You have two switches on the handle. One says altitude will hold. The other one says autopilot disconnect. And what you do is you click a switch down here, and there's this little thing that looks almost identical to this. And on the left side, there's a little thing that says autopilot mode and angle. And what you do is you push in on this button, and there's a bunch of little circles with lights on them, and they turn on to show what autopilot mode you're on. But what you can do is there's an ST mode, and you push the button in. You can actually twist it left and right and fly the airplane by actually like flying like a knob, like about the size of that screw. It's just kind of one of those sort of neat little quirky things, but it does work. And one of the cool things with it, too, which I really, really, really appreciate, is the fact it does talk to the GPS nicely. So you can kind of convince it to do the GPS. Are we going to lock on, or are you going to be annoying? Nope, you're going to be annoying, but that's okay. Yep, that's typical. That is just what this aircraft likes to do, unfortunately. Yep, avionics is set on. It's just being silly. I like how it's got us on this nice little bank to the left there. See, normally what you can do is you can jam on this and hold it to the right, and it should theoretically go to the right. Oh man, that thing's funny. There's nothing like cycling modes here, and see if it fixes it. Nope. I guess we're doing this flight the old-fashioned way, everybody. We actually got to fly the plane. Oh well. Exactly. Another fun quirk about the autopilot in the real world versus the autopilot in a flight sim is on the 172 that I fly, the autopilot, like I said, it does work as long as it's not turbulent. One of the things that it will do is, you always see those situations where you're just kind of cruising around and all of a sudden you hear beep, and the autopilot pops off on you. In the real world, that actually happens more than you'd like it to. So, you're just kind of cruising around, enjoying your day, and all of a sudden you start doing one of these things with the screen here, and it goes, and it just blinks, like a little flashing blue light to say that the autopilot has decided to quit. So unfortunately, it's just kind of one of those neat little things. I know I have to actually do things properly, Rick. I know. I mean, I guess that's the point. You're here to watch me fly today and suck in the nice terrain, which I'm actually going to crank up the sun just a little higher here. Because believe it or not, this is an absolutely beautiful country. So I picked Kyrgyzstan today because there's a really nice website that if you type in, it lets you pick a random country just by pressing a couple buttons. So I kept pressing random buttons and kept giving us places we've already been or places that are a little too small, like the Maldives, which we can do the Maldives if we have something that only goes like 10 knots, because we can do the entire Maldives in about 20 minutes. Not even. But it gave me a bunch of things. And it said Kyrgyzstan. I'm like, all right, let's check it out. So what I found out about this country is it's landlocked in Asia, and it actually has an insane amount of different types of biomes in it. If you go to the south and west, it's just giant plains, and it gets up to like 40 Celsius, 45, like really, really, really hot. If you're a little less inclined to that, of course, you can head out here to the east. We're actually in the central part of the country right now, where you have these crazy tall mountains. Like I'm at 11,000 feet right now, and I'm not beating every mountain peak that's around me. It's like Asia's Rocky Mountains kind of a thing. Like I said, it's absolutely wild. And then if you go to the southern part of the country, you can't get very far. Let me show you why. Because the southern part of the country looks like that. If you look at that distant mountains over there in the distance, it's just pure. And then if you go to the east, of course, you have the only mega body of water, which is, like I said, it's our terminus today. Like I said, it won't take us too long to get there. We get to kind of suck up these beautiful mountains. And yeah, I got a thing for flying in the mountains, because where I have my tallest mountain in the whole state is like 930 feet. So these are, 11,000, which makes them just that much cooler. Other fun things about this country, in case you're curious, their biggest export is gold. More than half the country's exports come from gold. So if you're curious where you get it, this is a great place to get it from. All right, that guy's got the right idea. High speed, low drag. All right, so what we're going to do now is there's this neat little river here. I'm not even going to dare to try to pronounce the name of it, but as we've seen in many of mountains that we've traveled over the years, pretty much wherever there's water, this is usually an indication that you have something that's relatively low altitude. So in this case, perfect. That's our low altitude. That's going to be the place to kind of follow. I'm actually going to kind of pile across the top of this mountain here because it's just easy to do. And then I'm going to go ahead and set up the autopilot again, and then I'm going to go kind of fiddle with my mixture and everything like that and make sure that's all set correctly, because I do not trust it. I wonder what we have for oxygen. It's really funky. This thing looks a lot like a microphone. It's a light. It's just so old school. I love it. All right, I'm going to kind of level off and sort of start heading in this general direction. Couple taps of trim. And we're good to go. Let's see if this thing wants to behave now. I love how you can trim this using a screwdriver. Most good autopilots have that capability. Oh yeah, that's borked. Oh well. Good thing I don't need to fly an ILS or anything like that, or this could be pretty dangerous. All right, let's see what we got for mixture. I like how these are two totally different temperatures, which is completely realistic. All right. I'm going to do 50 degrees over peak. Getting close. I think we found it. Yeah, there it is. 403 minus 50 would be 1350. Go. Come on, settle up. So there it goes. It's closer to a 1380, I think is going to be our temp here. Couple taps of that. Oh, too much. Right there. And I feel like I'm... I died. I'll be with everyone again shortly. Let this be a lesson in fiddling with systems that don't work. So this is how we should do all live streams, just like this. Maximum speed. And we're back. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to disable damage. There we go. Cool. Woohoo! Yeehaw! And we're back. So my buddy always says a term whenever you're dealing with scary mountains and things like that. He always says you have to watch out for the cumulus granite. All right, we're good. We're good. We're good. All right, I wonder if that fixed the automatic pilot. I bet you it didn't. All right, one hand on the wheel this time. One hand on the wheel. Look at how bad my mixture is. All right, here we go. Too much. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, Kyrgyzstan. So, very interesting country, very diverse. Obviously, this was part of the USSR ages ago. It feels like ages ago. That was actually in my lifetime. Some people it's one of those things where I always talk to my students about the different geopolitics back in the old days. Why all the movies always feature Russians being the bad guys or something like that. And it's kind of one of those things that it's just fun to try to explain because it's just something they didn't experience. And I remember in the very, very, very late 80s, just growing up as a kid, just kind of some of the scary stuff that you'd hear about or read in the news. And I remember back in kindergarten, of all things, that we had just started the Persian Gulf War. And Mom's like, we're at war now. And it's like, oh? It's just kind of one of those things where, you look back at it and say, oh, you're making history there. This thing's dangerous. I like it. I like it a lot. By the way, if you're looking for the quick and easy way to catch back up, the magic button there is Y. By the way, just be a little careful. Can you fix the time? I already got it, Junior. No problem. I say just a little too quick, but that's all right. All right, this thing seems to be running fine. It's a good thing that they loaned me a new one after the last one crashed. That's funny. I think that is, what is it, the 5th or 6th time I've crashed on a live stream. I think my favorite one of all times was when we were in Vegas. And we were flying the stunt planes 6 inches off the ground. And I did bump the ground once, but that's not what killed me. What killed me instead is we went to a race car stadium and we started to use the stunt planes as if they were race cars going around the stadium. Unfortunately, I ate it on the third corner and created a pretty bad accident there. But I mean, if you're going to do things like that, works fine. I'm just calling them as emceeing them. I'm afraid to touch it now. Okay, so the next really, really big obstacle that we're going to have to get through today is right off my 12 o'clock. If you look right there, there's that little mountain pass. Unfortunately, we have to get through that mountain pass. We can't just go around it because we'd have to go all the way down to India and over if we wanted to try to go around it. And I just don't have time for that tonight. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of power through, and then there's this very, very large sweeping plains. We have a couple different options when we get to that sweeping plain. We can keep going straight, which will take us basically right to the island, or we can kind of swing to the right and kind of come back down and around. Either one's perfectly fine. It's like this IFR flying here. I follow rivers. I'm afraid to look down now. I am with my private pilot license, and I go and mangle an airplane this virtual. Ouch. Oh well. It's different, I swear. So other things for Kyrgyzstan as well. Like I said, it's biome diverse. I could not believe reading all the different temperatures and climates you can get in one country. It's amazing. Not the most populous country, and a lot of different ethnicities and things like that, which just make it absolutely wild. Looking around, of course, I have the desire. We should have done this in the L-39, so we could have gone 10 feet off the ground, halfway across the country or something like that. That would have been pretty reckless and awesome. A couple more of those. There we go. And I've run out of throttle. I can't push it any further forward. My turbochargers will not keep up with me. There we go. We'll get this thing all nice and lined up. Sweet. Now, one thing people ask me every once in a while is when I'm making, videos for each week, do you miss do things not happen, or do you not see things? And there's a lot of that. The most common mistake that I make when I'm doing a video is you go to push a button and you've discovered the next bug that you have to put on the Microsoft ticket system to kind of let them know. Things like autopilot issues is pretty classic. I've had controls be reversed. I've had weird instabilities at different speeds. Like at the early days, if you're flying the F-18, if you remember when the fuel tank only sucked fuel out of the left side of the airplane, which made it pretty useless for anything that had any kind of reach on it. The SR-72 is everybody pretty familiar with that thing now. That did not work great when it first came out, and they definitely fixed it a little bit. The default autopilot on the G36 was terrible. I can't tell you how many times I had to redo approach videos because those did not work. We had situations where, I'm just trying to think of the other one that was really, really terrible. Doing stalls. Certain aircraft just don't stall like they do in the real world. You know, in the real world, when you stall, it's usually pretty mild. In the flight sim, for whatever reason, it's like losing a wing, essentially. It's just not like that, especially if you keep your airplane well centered on the ball. That's that guy right down there. All right, that was it. If we can get over that mountain pass, you could probably finish the rest of this flight. One of the things I was joking about, too, is like, what if we try to do this in a Cessna 152? Believe it or not, we can get this high in a 152. But supplemental oxygen would probably be recommended, even though we won't cross 12,500. I feel like somebody's sneaking up on me. There it is. Laugh-a-rog always. Oh, by the way, welcome back, Laugh-a-rog. Welcome back, Simon. Welcome back, Tangeray. Welcome back, Elastic Stick. Welcome back, Fast Ted. And I saw one other individual earlier that I missed. I apologize, but like I said, no harm in that particular situation. Yeah, this is an absolutely beautiful country. Like I said, you got to see the plains way, way, way behind us into the south into the west. Absolutely amazing in the way, like, everything is almost like shelved. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, Lebanon and Jordan. Like when you're right on the border of Egypt and Jordan, you kind of have those mountains in the corner there. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. Enjoying the rumbles. Just noticed something. Can I do it, or is the plane going to kill me again? Yeah, it seems to be working. I must have one of the gauges switched backwards because it says I'm discharging the battery, not charging the battery right now. Oh well. Oh, speaking of which, that we haven't done yet. Why would you put that there? That's such a sketchy spot for it. There we go. Sweet. Alright, let's sneak over this way. Coming up in the halfway point, I'm actually going to hug this mountain here on the left, and I'm going to make my way kind of across that mountain right over at my 12 o'clock there. Oh, your T16000. Oh, man. Those T16000s. Oh, that's referring to a joystick, by the way. Oh, that's the joystick I had forever. Like, when my T16000 died, I just bought another one. I teach an aviation class at my local high school, and we literally... That's the only joystick we use. Ironically, you know, people like normal, their household uses of joysticks don't wear them out. You should see what it's like when you let high schoolers do it. They get worn down, to say the least. But that's okay. Oop, Elastic Sack's going for it in the P-51 there. There it is. Oh, yeah. I hear something creeping up on my left ear. Oh, my gosh. One thing I don't like about this airplane is the paint scheme. I love the 64, but I'm not thrilled with the red for the 64. They could have gotten away with white with red trim or something like that. I think that would have looked a lot nicer. Let's come swing this way. It's a good-sized mountain. Like I said, we're going to kind of aim right for that spot right there where you can kind of cross over. That's the one. And then we're just going to kind of swing to the right and kind of make our way down that valley. A little more. Kind of reminds me of Argentina. Yeah, a little bit. Like you get these parts of the ground that just look like this, where you're sitting there going, people probably have never actually been here. You know, people would fly over, they'd ski across, but they probably wouldn't live. reminds me, it was like the Nazca lines right here. I was thinking about visiting those in Peru at one point, but unfortunately the problem with the Nazca lines is they don't quite look the same at the altitudes that we typically operate at, which is kind of a shame. All right on course. I can actually come to the left just a tiny bit more here. Go ahead and take a look at my temperatures of everything here. Oil's fine, cylinders are warm, but not bad. One of the fun things on one of the aircraft that I typically rent, it has a cylinder head temperature gauge that's something wrong with the actual sensor on it. So every time you turn your head and you look at the engine monitor, it always shows that cylinder 3 is like a good 200 degrees hotter than every other cylinder. Now it's possible it's just a really hot cylinder, but if that were the case, I would have killed that plane a very long time ago. The Yak. At the Yak. I think that's what... No. At Hey Yak. AK. The Yak. Clueless, but that's perfectly fine. This is crazy. Reminds me of, like I said, the Rockies, but it reminds me more of Argentina than it reminds me of anything. Uh-oh. Ew. And that, my friends, is where one county becomes a new county. There we go. Now this is super cool. Now as we came out of that mountain that we were just in a minute ago, you've got this massive valley right down here to the right. And one thing that you're probably noticing is there are no highways. There's not even any roads. You know, in this part of the country, it is accessible, but basically there's a highway system that's to the south of us. It's kind of down that way. That will connect up with this part of the country. But essentially, you've got a place that's snapped in half. Reminds me, like I said, almost like a little bit of a New Zealand kind of a thing going on as well. Absolutely awesome. Look at that. Reminds me of one of our first flights ever we did Papua New Guinea. That's exactly what that reminds me of. But what we did is we tried landing on like every little rinky-dink crash strip that we could possibly find all throughout that country. That was interesting. But this definitely reminds me of it, you know, quasi. You know, it's definitely glaciated, but at the same time, it almost feels volcanic. Very, very pointy. I'm afraid to look down. All right, let's give this a try again. See if it wants to behave. I think it might be behaving now. Cool. Would you look at that? Believe it or not, use of automation is something that you get graded on when you do your instrument check ride. It doesn't mean you're supposed to use it for everything. It just means it's supposed to be there to help you. And now it works fine. Go figure. Where we're going, we don't need any roads. That's good, Rick. But you know, where we're going, you don't need any eyes. That one I think is a little bit more obscure. You don't need eyes to see, I believe is the actual line from the movie. Always flying that VRGO. That's just that's the TED signature right there. Every time I get in and out of the cockpit, the airplane engine sounds a little different, so it freaks me out a little bit. All right, that's fine. I'm not gonna mess with that. That's fine. That's fine. All right, got to start thinking about landing now. There we go. And well, I think I figured out what the mystery was. I hit the button on my joystick to turn on the autopilot. Maybe that interferes with its ability to actually work normally because it's a special autopilot. Uh-oh. This guy's either going far, far away or he's going to try to intercept us. Not true this... nope, he's back there. Now, if we'd done this in the TBM, we would have been there already. Swing to my left a little bit here. Don't need to swing that far. Oh, another fun autopilot story, by the way. In the real airplane with the real autopilot, in the Cessna at least, you have a little trim wheel down here. When the autopilot flies, it actually flies by adjusting the trim wheel. So one of the fun things you could do is you can click the switch to turn on the autopilot without actually engaging it. And then if you grab the trim wheel, it goes click, 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 as you're pulling down through each one of the teeth of the gear that actually drives the automatic pilot. It's it's a lot sketchier than it sounds. The movie, by the way, is The Event Horizon. Also stars the gentleman from Jurassic Park, for anybody who's interested. Uh-oh. Yeah, we're running out of room here. Up! Go up! Oh, okay, no problem with AK. Of course, I have no... Okay, it's at the AK. Okay, gotcha. I say getting intercepted in the middle of old Russian territory by an F-18 is an interesting experience. Oh, somebody else is going fast. We have Brian doing incredible speed in a TBM-9. He's moving. Yep, I'm out of forward throttle. Can't go any faster. Oh, well. That was the mixture. Oh, what did we learn last time? There we go. Yeah, 18 meets 18, right? This is a neat plane. Like I said, I almost did it in the 247, but the problem with the 247 is it's a little buggy. Like, it's not bad, and it's really cool what they did, but it just doesn't behave like everything else does. Uh-oh. Somebody's coming for us. My excitement by this week was getting quarantined for COVID, in case anybody's interested. Oh, man, that guy's moving. Oh, boy. It's okay. I have slew. I can go faster. Uh-oh. Everybody out. Tangeray, you're, whatever. Your 200 is faster than my 200, sir. Keeping an eye on everything. Looks good. I just want to push the throttle forward, but there's nowhere to go. Probably should have tried to power over this mountain, but I think the thing suggested we travel at 13,500 today, so we're definitely a little high. Now check this out. So we come out of this mountain range that we were just operating in now, and what's going to happen is you're going to level off to this incredibly... Oh, I can do that. No, not going to do it. Nope. So what you do is, he's referring to the squawk code, so 7,500 is... Oh, 7,599. 7,500 is emergency! I'm sorry, 7,500 hijack, 7,600. I can't talk right now. 7,700, I'm on fire. So obviously pick the correct code for it, but don't accidentally on VATSIM because you're going to make everybody totally crazy when you do that. And here we are. So watch what happens. You know, we go from this, you know, very, very, very mountainous country, and 10 seconds later it goes from this to that. You have this massive, massive, massive plain. And like I said, this is the largest body in all Kyrgyzstan here. Kyrgyzstan, sorry. And basically where we're landing is going to be right over here on the corner here. So we can suck up some of that nice altitude that we've collected and basically trade it for some airspeed on the way down. And pop this sucker out. And down we go. Apparently I didn't learn anything about going down last time. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful right there. Well, when you zoom in, it doesn't look so good. But out here, it's just like... It's just incredible. I really, really enjoy hiking. It's like my default shoe is a hiking shoe. And it's just one of those things that when you get to see opportunities like this, you're like, oh my god, I just want to run up the side of it, take a bunch of pictures, and then come back down. My dog is often my little hiking partner, but he's got very, very short legs. He's a little 16-pound Schnauzer Cairn Terrier mix. So when we do our mountain climbs, they tend to be a little bit more detuned compared to some of the ones that I enjoy to do. All right, now. Sneaking up very, very carefully, cautiously. Whoop. We're going to be getting a lot of mountain turbulence in a second. I find this thing very interesting. I'm pitched down pretty significantly here, and I'm still only indicating 170. Interesting. Of course, over the ground, I'm doing 210, so those TBM guys, you'll never catch up. I just don't realize just how incredibly high up we are right now. The size of that lake, oh my gosh. Fast Ted's got the right idea. Ripping down the valley at maximum speed. I like the grass. Although, my eyes tell me he's underground. It's all good. And the cool thing is, on the way down, we have to actually increase the mixture. Keep an eye on all my temps. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. What I really should pay attention to is, you know, the ground. Whoa! So I have two different tools for looking around. I have my standard kind of like this. But the problem is you can't look up and to the left because I didn't bind that ever. So if you like try to do one of these, it goes like this. And that's how you can tell what joystick I'm using. If I use the other joystick though, that one I can actually wiggle my head all the way, which is kind of handy. One of the things I miss is over an X-plane, if you do like this, you can actually make your head snap to an angle, which is awesome. And yes, you can, of course, do one of these things in Microsoft Flight Sim. But it doesn't necessarily work as well, which just reminds me. Couple taps of the old trim there. Stop. Don't touch. Don't. Be good. Be good. I hate trim in Microsoft. It's just not how it is in the real world. No problem. I'm not touching the rudder pedals at all. And I believe I'm about to get past on the left here. Hey, you're supposed to pass on the... Yeah, no, I guess left is good. Careful. Careful. Whoa. Hey, the person passing has responsibility to make sure the pass is completed successfully. Just saying. My older brothers took 6 months off and hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. I could not take 6 months off. I'd be lucky if I could take a day off. One of the downsides to being a school teacher is, yes, you do get a good chunk of time off in the summer, which you use for everything other than relaxing. But during the school year, taking a day off, you get 2 per year, not including, obviously, 6 days. But it's just one of those things. You know, you want a doctor's appointment, you have to get them all on the same day. Now, check this out. It's Belichki. Right off at 12 o'clock there. That's one of those nice coastal resort kind of towns or something along those lines. Yeah, one thing I do have on my other joystick is I have the ability to actually... I don't know if you can let me see if I can show you this one. Where's my stick? There it is. No, you can't see it anyway. Yeah, so if you look at the trim button, I click very, very, very gently. And you can see it just wiggles the trim button just a tiny bit. The nice thing about that is I have a separate, like it's a rotary encoder. And it allows you to get really precise with the trim if you're inclined. But I'm a huge fan of just having the electric trim on the yoke. It just makes it easier. Yeah, so Simon was commenting on the fact that he drives in left. I've told this story before, but I still find it hilarious. When I went to Australia for the first time, we had to drive on the left. And you know, I'm an American. So unfortunately, that was an interesting experience. So we rented the car. Of course, there was a standard transmission, which no problem. That's the only thing I knew how to drive at the time. Like, I'd still had an automatic. So, you know, you get in the car and you go to the first left turn and your mind is just blown. Like, you can't... You're just not mentally prepared for having to take that left turn. And finally you make the left turn after waiting for... There's no cars left in all of Melbourne before you make the turn. You do the turn, you kind of get used to it, kind of get used to it, kind of get used to it. And then you go to put your turning signal on. So then you go to flip the turning signal on, and of course the windshield wipers go, and you're like, whoops, because the stalk for the turning signal is reversed with the stalk for the windshield wipers. Shiz me, just a quick thing. What we typically do is I post them on the community page, and I add the video like on Wednesday or Tuesday that week. So Sprint955ST comments on the fact, how'd you deal with the roundabout? Roundabouts are great. Where I live, we have several. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's a very progressive neighborhood, I guess. And we have tons of them, so it's just, like, totally normal. You just do it. Like, it's no big deal. I know there's people in different parts of the country, however, who would completely disagree with me on that, but I think they're great. So anyway, so we had to get used to driving in Australia, so one of the things we had to do was drive on a dirt road, which is fine, because you drive in the middle of the road like anybody does, and of course, truck traffic comes the other way. So me being an American goes, right. The person coming the other way goes, that's my side of the road. So almost died, but I survived. I figured it out at the last second, swung back to the left safely. Of course, that was a lot of fun driving like there. So anyway, so you drive around for 2 weeks in Australia. You kind of get the hang of it. Like, you can't back up in a car, by the way, looking over your left shoulder. That's not okay. Not okay. You just open the window of the car and stick your head out the right side. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so get back to the United States, of course. Get back in my car. I'm like, oh, thank God. Everything's fine. You know, the controls work fine. Everything works great. I'll go to take my first turn. I go ahead and click on the blinkers, and the windshield wipers start going, and start doing one of those. And I'm like, because I gotten so used to it being the other way. That's my story. I have 100 Australia stories because Australia was an amazing trip. This is looking nice, though. I want to visit Argentina next, I think. Argentina and L-39s. Calling it now. Wow, I can't believe how much altitude we're having to give up here. Like, the ground just, everything's just so big. Like, I'm doing 200 right now. Yep, 200 indicated. And enriching the mixture. I'm just crossing 10,000 feet. This is incredible how high up we are. Love it, shows me. When I took my driver's test as a kid, or not as a kid, well, as a teenager, one of the things it is, there with the word left and right on the respective hands, and the person who's inspecting me is like, why'd you do that? I'm like, I'm not taking any chances, because for the life of me, I just could not keep them apart. Now it's like, you know, I think of a ship. Port, starboard, easy. Same thing with the airplane. You know, my starboard engine's out. I know what I'm referring to. My number 2's out. I know what side of the plane it's on. It's just kind of one of those things. You know, take a left. Okay. Although I was reading actually today, speaking of differences as far as the left side, right side of the road and things along those lines, apparently they were attempting to do a decimal version of time at some point in France, I was reading. And, wow. It's, let's see, it's 8:15.3. I get it. I can make it work. It's just interesting more than it is anything. Okay, let's put the sucker on the ground. So our destination's right over there on the left. The wind is coming from the back, so we're not allowed to do a cirrus approach here. Normally we just do a straight in and just kind of boop boop, but I'm actually going to do a left downwind there and do this correctly. The thing I'm really, really thrilled with is the fact the pattern altitude is 6,400 feet. That's incredible. Where I live, the highest traffic pattern altitude I know is 2,200 feet, and that's up in, I've got to go to a different state for that one. We can turn on red. Turning on red is great. That was one of the disappointments. Oh, Australia, you have quick turns, by the way. So if you already want to make your life more miserable, let's take a right turn from the left lane of traffic across traffic. So if you really want a nice little challenge as far as trying to wrap your brain around dimensionality when you're used to one way, that'll definitely do it. All right, Brian's going in first. I'm going to do myself a good old half and left downwind. I think it's 2.5 today, so we'll go ahead and get all my stuff all set up here. I believe they drive on the right side of the road in Kyrgyzstan. And I was very, very curious to see what their national dish is. That's one of those things. My wife and I are pretty hardcore foodies. And basically, we go on vacation to taste food. I swear, that's what we do. You know, we're saying, like, oh, it's breakfast. Where should we go? Oh, it's lunchtime. Where should we go? What should we do for dinner? You know, sitting around basically waiting for the next meal. It's just funny. We just like to try stuff, though. Shusmi is from South Africa. Altitude is the default. South Africa is another place we have not visited on a live stream, which is annoying because they've got a really, really good cricket team, so worth checking out. Let's see. Another thing that while we're discussing driving, why not? Seeing as I already tried to kill. I already killed myself once tonight. Another fun thing too is where I live. It's a regional thing, I swear. Speed limits. You know, generally where we are, it's relatively. I don't want to call it slow, but the speed limits are relatively limited. When you get out west, especially where it's flat and straight, they tend to be a little bit more open-ended. But the joke there is, over on our side, we don't care. We just kind of go the speed of the road. And out west, they're very specific about traveling exactly the specific speed. So we had a friend from Indiana actually come up and visit us once, and they drove. And they were blown away with the fact that, you know, all the states they visited on the way here, it was like, oh, no problem, no problem. And then they get to, like, western Pennsylvania, you hit New York kind of a thing, and all of a sudden everybody's driving, like, 85 instead of 65 or 55. And it was just blowing their minds. So, of course, they were riding the car with us, and we're doing standard speed, which is about 80. I don't want to work that 120 kph-ish, 130 kph. And it's one of those things where that's just typical. That's what people do. And, like, you know, you're getting up to really, really high speeds, and then you get passed by a cop doing 90, and it's like, okay, it's just a different pace here, different pace. Of course, they still can pull you over for speeding, but, like, nobody goes that slow. You know, when you get passed by a tractor trailer in the left lane, that's always really satisfying. 6,400 is our traffic pattern altitude. Left downwind for 2.5. So what I really would like is somebody to release some Soviet aircraft for us to play. N24s and N18s and things like that, or Yakovlev's 40s and things like that. Those are just neat planes. And that's where I got started on YouTube, is explaining how to fly them, because they're so complicated. Now, my brain right now tells me I'm at traffic pattern altitude, but I'm actually 1,000 above traffic pattern altitude. The reason for this is because the runway is fantastically long. It's 12,000 feet plus. So it's just ridiculous. So I have to reduce power because I'm still not down to traffic pattern altitude here. All right, so my mind, uh-oh, that's bad news. Oh, that's right, because in England, you guys use miles per hour in cars, but everything else is mostly metric. I'm still so... This is incredible. A long runway. This will be fun. All right, 6,400 feet, come on. There we go. Okay, this is traffic pattern altitude, just to give you an idea of just how ridiculously long this runway is. I love the fact there's a parallel road. It's like cheating. At the sound of the tone. One thing I love about this plane is it does the best wheel landings. I don't know what it is. It's so good at wheel landings. Doesn't mean I'm going to do one well now. This is going to be a downwind to final if I've ever seen one. Enjoy the silence. Depeche Mode. These people must hate us. Uh-oh, overshot. Overshot bad. It's more of a base to right downwind. You would think I do that in the real world too, but I really don't. I don't know what it is, but in a sim it's just difficult to see. Alright, if you'd like to join us for the photograph, well, we'll meet you at the apron. Not sure when I actually hit the ground there. I believe I was on the ground and then I wasn't on the ground. We're here. Ooh. Oh, maybe I forgot to reset that. Yep, I did. All right, let's do it. Anybody liking to join us for the photograph? Well, we'll meet you over by that red building. Woo! We are here. What a great flight. Too bad I was reading about a Beech 18 that was lost in the mountains somewhere. I don't know what the deal with that is. Have a good one, shows me. Woo! Gotta do S-turns on the ground just to see this thing. There we go. This is the standard solution to solve that one. You just move your head. Now, the interesting thing is, if you're asking about my opinions on metric and imperial, metric is the way to go, I'm sorry. Except for the knot. The knot is an amazing unit, and it's awesome, and it makes complete sense if you understand navigation. That unit must not go. Everything else, though, metric is great. Meters a second, kilometers, kilograms, it's all good. Wow. Man, does that thing climb. And we're here. Nice. Look at that. Oh, I hope everybody gets in front of me so I can take a picture of that mountain range over there in the distance. That's just awesome. Of course, by the time everybody actually gets over here, it'll be like, delay. Gotta like zoom out a little bit here. In front! Get in front! I love this guy right here. Alright, fine. Actually, we had a pretty good turnout tonight. Good job, Brian. Nice. Alright. So as usual, when we get to the end of one of these, I always like to do some QA. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or some things that they'd like to see on the channel? We've got some interesting stuff coming out pretty soon where we're actually going to be doing, I guess I want to call it a flying test is the best way to say it. And what you're going to be seeing is you're going to see a situation where people will actually be, there we go, there's the screenshot. Thank you, thank you. Where you're actually going to have a chance to do some navigating. And you get to kind of do it sort of real time. Oh, that's better. That's better. That's better. Right there. Good job, everyone. Hold for the picture. Say cheese. Nice. Well done. Well done. Good job, everybody. Good job. I got it. I got it. All right. So as always, like I said, I like to do some QA at the end. If anybody has any questions, comments, videos they'd like to see. Like I said, I've got an interesting video that we'll be seeing probably in a few weeks where you're going to be giving the chance to try to navigate as basically I fly the plane. Just a neat little exercise in flying at the same time as seeing how well you can figure out where we are in the air. Excuse me. Let's see here. I have to get confused. When somebody says YouTube, decimal, I got 1.5 inches. I can't help that. Actually, you know what I can do in this plane that I can't do in a lot of other planes? Let's see if I can do it. Alright. I'm going to pull a P-51 here. I don't know if I'll be able to get away with it, but I'm certainly going to try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock my throttles so they're separate. You can see what I'm going to do. Ready, go. Does it work? I don't know that that worked. Look at all the sounds. Oh, how do you record in VR? Wee! It sounds so mad. Rick, the trick to VR is you have to have a way to safely stabilize it. One of the things I do is on my editing software is actually have the ability to stabilize footage. So that works really well. There's also an application called Live, L-I-V, that you might want to look into. I don't know that it works with Microsoft. There's also a thing in OBS that allows you to basically crop out the sides. Like you want to use the widest FOV you possibly can whenever you're doing anything with VR, because otherwise people get sick, because unfortunately your head is doing one of these all the time. So the only way you eliminate that is by kind of zooming out a little bit so it's less obvious. That works really, really well in VR. Another problem people have in VR is the frame rate that they're using. So whatever frame rate that you pick, you want to make sure it matches whatever's going on in the headset. Otherwise, you're going to get kind of a desync, which is going to make everything look really, 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 really funky. That's another recommendation for VR. Another thing that I do when I do VR is I try to pick environments where I know the frame rate's going to be good. Because if the frame rate's better, it's going to make it look better, even if it's like, you know, you lose some quality in that regard. Another thing that people will do is they'll record one eye only rather than run both eyes at the same time. Another thing you got to watch out for too, which happens a lot, is when it renders it on the desktop, it's actually going to use even more resources than if it just rendered it kind of straight up. This is going to be so bumpy. Ready, bounce it. But I find those things that make VR somewhat tolerable. But again, it all comes down to the application you're using. It all comes down to the person you're using. All right, folks, have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like I said, we had a little oopsie there, but I'm actually going to save that one by not crashing here.